Oh, all right, so the recording is starting right now, and let's just say hello there, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. My name is Kyle Krueger with Thought, and today we're going to talk about. And today I have a special guest, and his name is Brett. Brett, tell people what you do.
I've been covering FMW for 24 years. Back when it was still going on, I covered it daily, and then since it's been closed down, I pretty much have studied the history of it, as well as all the promotions that have followed it and all the wrestlers that came from it.
Nice. So if anybody doesn't know, FMW is basically the Japanese ECW. In fact, it was the ECW before ECW. It was one of the many inspiration for why ECW is hardcore.
Yeah, essentially, Sabu was working in FMW and ECW at the same time. He had started FMW first, and then Paul E. Dangerously had got him to come over and start working ECW. Well, he would bring FMW tapes over, and Paul E. and other ECW wrestlers would watch it, and Paul E. would go, hey, we can implement this style here. No one else is doing that in America. And he and ECW kind of became more hardcore. This was back in '93 or so, and they had more of a focus on extreme wrestling, and eventually became Extreme Championship Wrestling as a result of Sabu and Paul Heyman.
Oh, that's cool, man. I think we all should thank FMW and Sabu. We should all thank Sabu for this, because if it wasn't for Sabu, we wouldn't have an ECW. And Paul. So yeah. But anyways, so I'm gonna ask you questions. Okay, so question. I wrote it down this time because unlike the last time, I was cluttered. Okay, so here's what I wrote down.
Okay.
Question number 1. What is the best and worst match to come out of FMW?
There have been multiple different great matches in FMW. My personal favorite is Megumi Kudo versus Combat Toyota. It was on May 5th, 1996 at Kawasaki Stadium. They were able to not only have a hardcore match where it's exploding barbed wire, it's two women, and they they implement the deathmatch style. They work around. They have a great match around the barbed wire.
Wow.
So that style just amazing. Personally, like I said, just a great match. And then you add in, hey, these girls are going into exploding barbed wire on top of having this great match, and emotional too, because Combat Toyota was retiring. And so, the girls are crying afterwards, and just something that's the kind of wrestling I love, the passion, and both just showing their heart there as well. Worst match, I'll go with, as far as infamous, I'll say Atsushi Onita and Tarzan Goto versus the Sheik and Sabu, the fire death match, where they end up setting the ring on fire, and they put too much kerosene, and so the rope started to burn just a couple minutes in, and they were pretty much trapped in they actually luckily had taken the bottom rope out, so they could all escape out of the ring, because the ring had started to catch on fire, had started to burn to the ground. Ooh. And the Sheik actually ended up getting stuck in the ring for a couple minutes before finally able to get out, and he ended up suffering burns as a result.
Oh. So sorry. So let's continue.
Oh, I was just saying. So yeah, it was only like a 4 or 5 minute match, but as far as disaster and just notoriety, I would say that was most definitely like the worst. Just a whole bad, not necessarily a bad match because it didn't have a chance to be a bad match, but just a bad scene altogether.
5 minutes. Wow.
Yeah, they threw the match away, and then they had to start throwing the water and trying to calm the fires down because it was just too much. The ring, like I said, the ring had just started catching on fire completely.
You also said in our interview talking, by the way, I'm sorry about what happened for our last talk, but you said a Damien 666 match was there.
Yeah, as far as actual this match is not fun to watch.
It was Damien versus what was the guy?
Battle Ranger. So like I said, this was not videotaped professionally. It was someone in the crowd recording it, and
it's one of those matches.
Yeah, it's a 20-minute match, and they just end up sitting there, and they're not doing much. There's very little activity.
Oh, it's stick. It's a stick match. It's a stick.
Yeah, and so it's just 20 minutes of just boredom. And there was no real note, like I said, like, the next match happened and it was forgotten, so there's no ramifications or anything like the fire or death match. But it was just, it's 20 minutes of just boredom.
You said Battle Ranger. Like, I've seen Damien, aka Damien666, wrestle, and he is a great wrestler. Underrated wrestler. And you said Battle Ranger is a good wrestler too, so you would think these two would make a good match. I don't know why. I don't think they would say, hey dude, let's go make a bad match on purpose. I think it was obviously that it was either FMW's fault or whoever booked its fault, or I don't know the behind the scenes stuff with it, so...
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and I don't even know if they would remember what happened. It was 29 years ago. So,
Yeah.
like I said, it wasn't even professionally videotaped. It was just a handheld. So I doubt that it's been on their mind for 20 years or whatnot. So I'm sure they don't remember what happened, but definitely something happened to where they did not really do much in that match at all.
Would you call it FMW's most disappointing match, given that both these guys are good wrestlers?
I mean, there's been some Hayabusa matches that I would say are actually more disappointing because Battle Ranger's not Hayabusa. Let's put it that way.
He's a good wrestler.
Battle Ranger's can be a good wrestler. Hayabusa can be an excellent wrestler, and Hayabusa has had some really bad matches. So the bad matches Hayabusa's had, I would say that those would be more disappointing, sadly.
Right. Okay. Question number two. We're going to talk about the three Gaishins. What do you think are the three best Gaishins? Okay, I gotta tell people. Gaishin is Japanese for foreign wrestler. Who do you think are the three best Gaishins in FMW? To me, sorry.
No, I'll say the three top ones that were kind of there from almost the beginning to pretty much almost the end were Mike Awesome, the Gladiator, but most people, like I said, know him as Mike Awesome in ECW. He was the top FMW foreign wrestler from 1990 to 1998, so he had an 8-year run there where he not just came in and he was a green guy, had not that much experience, and he developed and became more muscular, became more powerful, and also began to include high-flying moves into his repertoire. And so he went from just this brawler having barbed wire matches with Onita to the end where he's having these great matches, 25-minute brawling and mat-style matches with Hayabusa Masato Tanaka towards the end. So I would always say he was number one. Number two would be Super Leather, who had the Leatherface gimmick in FMW. With the chainsaw and everything. He came in with kind of he had been working for the rival Wing promotion when he came in, and so he had a name, he had a gimmick, and he was really popular there at the beginning, and he got really over and won the Brass Knuckles, the top heavyweight title in FMW for a time period. Towards the end, they kind of pushed him to the middle and to the undercard. He didn't have as much. He wasn't as much of a name at the end, but he still had a really good run there. And then Horace Boulder, I would say, is number three. He came in with Mike Awesome. He was Mike Awesome's tag partner for a lot of times, and he was cousin. He was in the barbed wire matches as well, the street fights and everything. And so I would say those were the three top foreign wrestlers in FMW throughout the time.
Oh, that's cool, man. Oh, those were now that is a good list because to be honestly fair, dude, those three are the best. Those three kick ass. Those three got over by just being themselves. I don't think his Super Letter was being himself though. I think it was being himself and a character. But anyways, those three are awesome. By the way, I'm a huge fan of Horace Hogan. You know why? Because A, he's not a pain in the ass like his uncle, Hogan, Hulk Hogan. And two, he can hardcore wrestle to save his life. I mean, this guy, if Horace was in ECW, I think he would have had a better career there than what he did in WCW.
Yeah, most likely. But, he definitely had experience working those barbed wire matches and everything in FMW. But yeah, when he came into WCW, he didn't really have much. No one really knew who he was. And so, it was probably just a favor from Hulk Hogan to get him a better deal than he was in WCW than he was getting in FMW.
I made him a hardcore champion. In my rebookings of WCW from 1990 to 2001. Okay. Well, to be honestly fair, if you're going to have a hardcore division, you either need to have either Damien or Horace hold those belts. But anyways, that's just my opinion. But anyways, dude. By the way, dude. I got him. Also, Horace does rock the black and white. He was an NWO member. He actually rocks the look, if you get what I mean. But anyways. Okay. Anyways, did FMW have a junior cruiserweight division? And if they did, I heard they didn't have a junior cruiser. Do they have a junior cruiserweight title? If or not?
Yeah, they did. It was supposed to be kind of a combination of Michinoku Pro and FMW. Michinoku Pro,
Taka Michinoku.
Yeah, with the Taka Michinoku, the Great Sasuke, and it was kind of this combo. It was going to be this combo title, but it mostly ended up falling into the FMW. It had the FMW initials on it, and FMW had it. It was mostly an undercard title, and the junior heavyweights weren't that great. Ricky Fuji held it, solid wrestler. Hideki Osaka, and Koji Nakagawa, they held it for a couple years, and then Taka Michinoku ended up winning it, and he ended up taking it to Mexico and actually just working with, defending it in Mexico and other countries and everything. And the title still exists to this day. It still they still use it in Japanese independent promotions. It's just no longer called the FMW junior heavyweight title. It's now called the independent junior heavyweight title. But like I said, it was just defended this past week for Taka Michinoku's promotion. So it's still around 29 years later. It's kind of fallen apart at this point, but the title still lives on with the FMW initials on it.
Can it be rebuilt, the title, have a new design?
I think at this point the charm, it's so bad off it might actually need to be kind of cleaned up. But at this point, I think they think of it as kind of as charming because of how long it's been there and how it's still the original design.
Right.
But I don't know. That's up to whoever is holding the title and the promotion running. Taka Michinoku, if he wants to put the money into it and everything. The guy that made it was actually the same guy that made all the WWF belts.
Oh, dude, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, I want him to be my best friend now because he made the European title, which I think is the greatest mid-card title in American pro wrestling history. But anyways, this is a bonus question. I'm sorry, I had that. Do you think ECW should have had a cruiserweight title, given that they have a good track record with cruiserweights like Tajiri, Super Crazy, Spike Dudley, Little Guido, Tony Mamaluke, Luke and Kid Cash, and Mikey Ribrack?
I don't think they needed it. I think I personally just think, a heavyweight title, a mid-card, TB/Intercontinental title, and the tag titles is all, promotion needs, but that's, that's just my opinion. I
agree. Okay, anyways, here's some wrestlers, and can we make the opinions a little short because I don't want to ramble on, because sorry, I'm not trying to anything, but anyways, here are the lists of the wrestlers, ladies and gentlemen. What is your thoughts on who I think is the greatest tag team to come out of FMW, Gato and Gato?
Jado and Gato, two excellent wrestlers. When they came into FMW, they kind of had...
they were green.
Yeah, green and kind of not really in shape. And while in FMW, they really worked out and became more muscular, had better bodies, became better workers. And, they definitely, were probably the most famous tag team in FMW that people know about, but they kind of made their name more, in New Japan afterwards. But while in FMW, it's kind of where the promotion where they kind of grew and became who they were.
Right. I think to me, they are a great tag team, but if you're going to tell me, I'm going to say this, Gato, to me, is the greatest Japanese booker ever. And I mean that by plural. And because Gato's a great booker. He knows what fans like. I mean, who would have thought an FMW wrestler who would have thought a former FMW hardcore wrestler would become the greatest booker in New Japan history?
Yeah.
to be honestly fair, I'm trying to figure out how you can be both a good hardcore wrestler and a good booker.
Well, he didn't do too many hardcore matches. He only did a couple. He
was a safe hardcore wrestler.
he mostly stayed. He did straight matches, straight tag matches, but yeah, I mean, he definitely they did some hardcore matches. That he did the last ever barbed wire match in FMW also. So
Whoa.
he did do some, but he was mostly a straight wrestler.
Okay. So, anyways, what's your thoughts on Masasoto Tanaka?
An excellent worker, great. He was the number 2 guy in FNW behind Hayabusa because of how excellent he was. They noticed right away how great he was because he started in 1993, and by 1996 he was pushed as the number 2 guy. And in Japanese wrestling, it takes a lot of time to kind of move up the card. You got the Tanahashis and all them. It takes 10 years for them even to get put to the top. Masato Tanaka, after 3 years, because of how excellent he was, they knew right away, we gotta push this guy. He can have great matches. He can have great hardcore matches. He can do pretty much anything, and he's still going to this day. 29 years later, he's still having great.
49 years old. 49 years old.
Yep. Yeah, he's 49 years old, still having great matches, and still can go. And doesn't seem like he can stop. He's going to stop anytime soon.
He's the PCO of Japan. You know who PCO is? Pierre Carl.
Yeah.
Right. But dude, if he and PCO have a match, it's totally gonna be a great match. But anyways, his forehead looks like I call wrestlers that have scars like Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes. I call them Mount Scarmore.
Yeah, all the FMW wrestlers have those scars. You meet them in person, and that's the first thing you notice. You notice those scarred up foreheads are right there in front of you.
Right. Okay, so there's a wrestler that I think was a good FMW wrestler, but I felt like, and he was not a bad fit, but I feel like he was just there because he needed to be a reward, a special, and that is Jinharu Tanaka. Tenryu. I think he was a good FMW wrestler, but he wasn't the best fit. He felt like he was just there because, you know that expression, you pick someone out of a hat? It kind of felt like Jinharu was... He tried. I'll give him credit for that, but...
he was never an FMW wrestler. He just wrestled in FMW. He was always either a war wrestler, which is his own promotion, or later he became an All Japan wrestler. And
a New Japan wrestler.
Yeah, he had done New Japan as well while he was in war. And so he did kind of there was 2 different stints. There was he took on Onita in an exploding cage match at Kawasaki Stadium, and it was a good match. It wasn't great or anything. And then later on, that was 1994. Then later on in 2000, 2001, he came in and he kind of had this, and he was 50-something years old. He'd been a star for 30 years, top guy in All Japan, and also had won the New Japan title in the past. He didn't really want to sell too much for these independent wrestlers, so it didn't go over that great, at least for me, because he was just so dominant towards and kind of made the FNW wrestlers look bad. The only wrestler he really was willing to sell for and make look decent was Hayabusa, and everyone else kind of just had to take what he gave them. And so that kind of where it didn't, they were bringing him in to help draw the shows, to help, get audience members in, but at the same time it was also kind of undercut them because it made the wrestlers look bad.
Oh, so he was way too powerful.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's the thing. It's like, you gotta sell to people, man. I mean, I'm an indie pro wrestler. My wrestler name's Yin Truesdale, by the way. But anyways, yes. But it's like, you gotta sell to everyone, dude. Otherwise people are not gonna like you. Anyways, let's look at Kodo Fuyuki. Now, in our old talk, which I still apologize for, here's the thing. You told me that Fuyuki had a Undertaker level of respect.
So there's 2 different sides to Fuyuki. The wrestlers respected him as a wrestler. He was a very good wrestler. He had a lot of, he was a very talented wrestler who could go. He wrestled a 60-minute match with Hayabusa, and he was actually the one carrying Hayabusa at the end because Hayabusa was so exhausted and Fuyuki could still go, even though Fuyuki was a larger man. So he could still have really good matches, excellent matches, but a lot of the respect, that they had for him in the ring wasn't there because he was the booker, and he kind of made FMW into sports entertainment, and a lot of the wrestlers did not like FMW being sports entertainment.
So he's like,
and so they didn't really like him as a booker.
Oh, so he's kind of like an Osaka pro wrestler booker, if you get what I mean. He's kind of...
I mean, he's the closest thing in Japan to Vince Russo, as most would say. I mean, he was a WWF fan. He was a WWF Attitude fan. He wanted to implement the style of, okay, we're going to do storylines, which some of them were really good storylines, but then he kind of ran out of ideas, and they kind of started recycling. Okay, let's do a love angle with this guy, this wrestler, and this girl. Okay, now let's do another one similar to it. Let's bring in porn stars. Let's do this. Let's, things like that. And like I said, it's not a custom in Japan, that kind of style. And
is it a custom now, or is it still not a custom?
DDT somewhat does it, but they do it a lot better, and so they become a lot more popular. But there was a promotion, Hustle, where they spent millions of dollars on that kind of style of wrestling, and they lost millions of dollars, and the promotion ended up having to fold because it just didn't take off. So it really depends on if it's done well, consistently, and you develop a fan base that likes it and is willing to continue to watch it. But FMW didn't do that. DDT has done that, though.
Okay, well, to be honestly fair, if somebody pulled a gun on me and said, who would you rather have as your booker, I would go with Fuyuki, because Fuyuki, I think if Fuyuki had a bad idea, he would have said, yeah, I made the idea bad. But with Russo, it's like, he has to make every excuse under the sun. He's like, bro, this is this guy's fault. Bro, it's that guy's fault. Bro, this, bro, that, bro, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I think Fuyuki just in general is a better booker, and, he was a lot more creative. He had, like I said, some really good ideas. But at the end of the day, it's just hard to be a booker, especially for many years, and you just kind of run out of ideas. And I think, in a sense, that's kind of what happened to Fuyuki, as well as, hey, Vince Russo. He had all his good ideas in WWF, and then, you go to WCW, and no one this is bad. There's no one there to filter it, and you end up having a bad product like WCW was in 2000 with Vince Russo.
Dude, I promise you, in my version of WCW 2000 is 1,000,000% better than Vince Russo's version. I promise you that. But anyways, I also like his gimmick where like he's kind of like this yellow Tarzan, Japanese Tarzan like character. Like he was this grungy, like hardcore wrestler. He was like this.
Yeah, he's what he'll do is he'll scream. So he gets in they call it the banana panic because he like you said, he's in all yellow, and so he ends up putting his arms up and just starts screaming, and he does a charging lariat. That's kind of like one of his finishers there. And so I mean that's definitely Fuyuki.
You said a lot of people went to his funeral, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, well, they had a funeral. They had his wake. And several hundred people attended, and big names. And then his funeral the next day. You had Tenryu, you had Toshiaki Kawada, you had Mitsuharu Misawa.
Wow.
These legends really respected Fuyuki because he came from All Japan in 1980 with with them. He was one of those guys, and so he developed a lot of respect. And then so a lot of people attended his funeral, and then they had a memorial show for him about a month and a half later, and about 16,000 people attended the show.
Wow, I mean, if somebody would, wow, imagine if, let's say, Eddie Guerrero had a show like that. I mean, you get what I mean? Had him, well, they did, but it was like in Raw and SmackDown. But wow, I mean, that's a lot of people. I mean, that's the thing I gotta give Fuyuki credit. Like, he's earning people's respect. I hate wrestlers like Tessa Blanchard that just think that, respect is something you need to be given. But in reality, you need to earn it. And when you do earn it, you make friends, you make families, you make loved ones, you make a lot of other stuff. But anyways,
They did a really cool scene on the show where, because Fuyuki was big time into, I want my photos taken, I want to be noted, I want, kind of the media there. And so what they ended up doing was, Kanemaru, who replaced Fuyuki, he took on Shinya Hashimoto, and they ended up bringing in Fuyuki's urn with his ashes in it, and it was an exploding barbed wire match, and they both took the urn and went into the exploding barbed wire themselves while holding the urn, while Fuyuki's wife was there crying.
Wow, that is respect. I mean, man, this guy, if this guy was still alive, I think he probably would. I think he would have been in every wrestling Japanese promotion Hall of Fame, if you get what I mean. Even if he wasn't there, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely, I mean, the Noah promotion really respects him, even though he only worked one match there, or 2 matches there ever, and they still talk about Fuyuki. They still really respect him because he was friends with Mitsuharu Misawa, who was the godfather of Noah.
Wow. Mr. Green and White, that's what I call him. I call him Mr. Green and White. But anyways, now let's talk about a wrestler that I forgot to talk about, and I apologize for not talking about it. His name is Jinsuke Sasaki, aka Hakushi. Bless you.
Yeah, Jinsei Shinzaki. Kinsuke Shinzaki is his real name, and he goes by Jinsei Shinzaki.
I am sorry, I mispronounced that.
No, I mean, like you said his first name pretty much, or his real first name, but yeah, he goes by Jinsei Shinzaki. And like you said, Hakushi in WWF. He was a Michinoku Pro wrestler, and one of the bigger guys. And, like, as most know, he went to WWF and became Hakushi, and then he came back to Japan, and he worked both FMW and Michinoku Pro, because, like I said, he was kind of a bigger guy, so he actually fit better in FMW, and he became really good friends with Hayabusa, and they became a tag team. They
won the All Japan All Asia tag team belts.
Yeah, and they Hayabusa at the time was the very first wrestler that was not a All Japan wrestler to begin working in All Japan. And then they ended up bringing in Shinzaki, who, like I said, was a Michinoku Pro wrestler. And yeah, they formed a tag team. They did the All Japan Real World Tag Team Tournament in '97 together. And then, yeah, in 1999, they ended up winning the All Asian Tag titles together. And they were real life best friends. They really got along really well. And he was a great fit with FMW. He got mixed into the Hayabusa versus Mr. Ganosuke feud, which is one of the best feuds FMW ever did. And like there was multiple layers to it, and he kind of got involved into it and had a great match with Mr. Ganosuke and with Wing Kanamura a week apart from one another, and just a great wrestler. He was in and out of FMW because, like I said, he was a Michinoku Pro full-time wrestler, but the time he was in FMW he had a lot of great matches.
He and Hayabusa also had a great tag team match with Rob Van Dam and Sabu.
Yeah, Heatwave '98. It's a very opinionated match. A lot of people say it's the best match ever. A lot of people say it sucked.
I thought it was a great match. I will admit it is a little too long, but I feel like
I was gonna say it falls apart at the end. So I watched it recently because I hear so many opinions about it, and it is great. It's great. First 15 minutes are great, and then the last 5, it's like, ooh, things are starting. The wheels are starting to come off, and so that was my opinion after watching it recently, where it's just like, oh, it's this great 15-minute match that, like you said, goes too long because the last 5 they kind of start messing stuff up.
I mean, to be honestly fair, Heatwave 1998 is a perfect pay-per-view.
Yeah, I think it's the best ECW pay-per-view.
We all think it is. But anyways, want to hear something? If you ever notice in the match, like at the end, like somebody just tosses all 3 of the belts, the TV and tag team titles, and I was like, who the hell treats their belts like this? Then again, it is a hardcore promotion, so they would. It was like they treated the belt like how Naito treated that IC title belt, like it was like an abusive child, if you get what I mean. But anyways, now let's move on to the founder of FMW, Mr. Raven before Raven himself. What's his name, sir?
Atsushi Onita.
Yeah, I looked him. I seen him wrestle. He's a good wrestler, but when you compare him to other wrestlers in FMW, he's like good but not great.
Well, so Onita's thing was he ended up really screwing up his knees badly in the early 80s, and that's why he was no longer a wrestler, and eventually ended up creating FMW because at the time there was only New Japan and All Japan, and it was just like if you weren't in those promotions, you're not in the business. And he kind of actually started the independent scene in Japan, creating FMW. Kind of it doesn't have to just be New Japan and All Japan, but how do you make this promotion successful? You're not going to have better matches than All Japan and New Japan. Let's do hardcore wrestling. And so he brought in barbed wire and then began doing the explosives and everything. And he didn't have to be a great wrestler because, hey, as long as you are able to show charisma, have a personality, and have these death matches. You don't need to have great matches because, like I said, his knees are so bad off anyway. And as you get, but now currently he's 64 years old. I mean, it's hard to be a good wrestler at 64. And like you said, he was okay. He made it in the 90s. He'd still have good matches, and the crowd was so into him. He was so over. He didn't have to have great matches. And now like I said, he's 64. He's had double knee surgery, so he's definitely struggling now. But I mean, he's had a Hall of Fame career, and he changed the Japanese wrestling scene.
He changed the Japanese business, both good and great.
Yeah.
But let's we got 3 wrestlers left. So we got Mr. Kahiro.
Mr. Ganosuke?
Yeah, Mr. Kahiro. No, Mr. Kahiro Kanamura.
Oh, okay, Kentaro Kanamura?
Yeah. I thought AKA the guy who tried to have a good match with Balls Mahoney but couldn't because of the time.
Yeah, he only had a couple minutes. He ended up having a really good match with Balls Mahoney in FMW a couple months earlier.
Oh.
They were given time though, and everything. So, but yeah, really great wrestler. One of my favorites. He could wrestle. He can have the death matches. He kind of blended both together, which I really respect. Like having a great wrestling match while holding the barbed wire bat, essentially, kind of that takes talent, I think. But yeah, he had great matches with Masato Tanaka. He had great matches with Hayabusa. He was kind of Mick Foley. I mean, I think he took more bumps than Mick Foley and ended up having a longer career. While taking all these incredible bumps. He got burnt. He got powerbombed into fire one time and burnt his back up really bad. Yeah, he got kicked by Mirko Krokop in the head. Legit, like no holding back, and ended up. That actually ended up shortening his career. That's why he struggles to walk to this day because of that kick. But I mean, just on top of just bump after bump, going through tables, and like I said, just kind of Mick Foley. But Mick Foley kind of stopped being full time after 10 years, and Kanamura went 25 years.
Wow. Did he take an ultimate bump, like 2 ultimate bumps, like Mick Foley did in King of the Ring?
Not necessarily to that. I mean, I'd still take the King of the Ring bump over getting powerbombed into fire personally. But I mean, he's done stuff like jumping off of the stage and everything like that. He's done high risk moves, but no, he's never was thrown off a cage.
And then survived, and then continued the match.
Yeah.
Okay, but anyways, now let's get on to Mr. Suit himself. We get into a guy who rocks the blonde businessman gimmick, Mr.
Ganosuke.
Yeah, dude, I gotta admit though, he rocks a suit well. He rocks the glasses, the suit. I would have business with this guy. But anyways, continue.
No, I mean, he was a childhood friend with Hayabusa. He got Hayabusa into wrestling. He was the one going, hey, FMW, they're accepting new wrestlers, and Mr. Ganosuke was too short to be in New Japan or All Japan, and so FMW, he could get into it, and he goes, Hayabusa, Ejiezegi, let's join together, and they did, and they both started in FMW together, and there were some issues that resulted in Mr. Ganosuke leaving for about a year or two, and when he came back, he was a heel, and he was the best heel in FMW, I think. He had great matches, he had great charisma, he had great personality, he teamed up with Kanamura, and they had great tag matches, and, like I said, him and Fuyuki were the top heels in FMW, and just incredible worker, and, he ended up wrestling for 20 plus years, and he was even until he retired in 2018, he was still having really good matches.
Wow, this guy means business, both suit and wrestling. Yeah. Now I've saved the best for last. I've saved the greatest FMW wrestler ever for last. I've saved the heart and soul of FMW, other than the creator. You know who he is?
Hayabusa.
Exactly, dude. Hayabusa to me is Hayabusa to me is the Mr. FMW, the Tommy Dreamer to FMW, the Cruiserweight, the greatest Cruiserweight to come out of FMW, the greatest anything. What's your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, he's my personal favorite wrestler. He was a trendsetter. He, because not only was he, you called him a cruiserweight, but he is actually a heavyweight. And what happened was he started off as a cruiserweight, but he knew, if I'm going to be the top guy, and that was Hayabusa's thing. He had the attitude, I'm going to be the top guy of FMW, and he knew he had to get bigger, and so he began training with Mike Awesome and got a lot more muscular, and went to Mexico and learned all these new moves that hadn't ever been done in the ring, including, the Phoenix Splash and the Falcon Arrow, which Seth Rollins does to this day in WWE. And then he came back to FMW from Mexico and became the top wrestler and changed FMW. Before it was Onito with the death matches, and we're saying, okay, maybe he'll have a good match, but they didn't have to be good matches with Onito. They were brawls or street fights and everything. He changed that to where not only are, there were still brawls and everything, but also, hey, let's focus on good wrestling matches. And that's what he brought to FMW, a different atmosphere, a different fan base. And, we're going to wrestle, we're going to have great matches. And that's what Hayabusa did, having high flying style while still being a heavyweight and having great mat matches as well. And I mean, he had a great career for 6 years in FMW, and was the top guy and the most beloved guy in the promotion until he ended up suffering his injury, and FMW, when he suffered his injury, FMW ended up closing down just a couple months later.
Ooh, man, I heard that he had to retire early.
Yeah, well, he ended up getting paralyzed.
Ooh.
Yeah, so when he got paralyzed in the ring and he could only walk with a cane afterwards and stuff, and it was mostly wheelchair bound. And so, I mean,
he got a draws injury, if you get what I mean.
What'd you say?
He got a draws injury.
Yeah, I mean, essentially is a similar injury to draws where you're wheelchair bound. I think he was a little better off than draws, actually, because like I said, he could still actually stand up and walk with the cane and everything. I don't know if draws could do that, but it was definitely a similar injury where your career is over after that.
Right. I still love draws, though. I just feel bad for what
yeah.
But anyways, yeah. Dude, do you know what I like about Hayabusa? I like how he broke the rule of I can be a cruiserweight and a world champion at the same time. Because I hated that mentality in early Japan wrestling. When I mean early Japan, the first 5 or 6 decades where you had to have this you can't be the world champion because you're a cruiserweight. I hate that.
Like I said, he actually had to bulk up because of that rule. So he still included the high flying, but it became, he was 230 pounds still. So he was still the weight of a heavyweight, of a Bret Hart or a Shawn Michaels or whatnot, but he was still including all those high flying moves as if he was a cruiserweight. Although the problem with that is it messes your body up. And so Hayabusa was always dealing with injuries because you're a 230 pound guy doing top rope moves all the time, and he would suffer the consequences as a result. But yeah, like you said, hey, he was a 200, he made himself a heavyweight so he could be the champion because of that rule.
I mean, I actually, fun fact, if Kenta, remember when Kenta won the Noah championship and nobody complained about that?
Well, he won the title, but that was kind of they tried it and then they took it away, and he was back in the mid card right away. Him and Marufuji, yeah, they were the champions, and they main evented a Budokan Hall show, and then within a year it was okay. We tried this out, it didn't work. They were back to being mid carders for a couple years after that. So there's still definitely a negative stigma, even if you try it and you give them a title and you give them a run, and if you. They have to prove themselves more than they have to prove they're not good. And and like I said, Noah ended up moving them back to the mid card just a couple years later, or for a couple years after that, feeling like, okay, we tried the junior heavyweights, it didn't work.
Right, but to be honestly fair, I don't mind having a Japan promotion having a junior heavyweight as their heavyweight champion.
Oh, no, I don't either. I think you should focus. I think they should have more junior heavyweight wrestlers. I think, we were talking last time about Jushin Liger, how he should have had a run as champion, and I totally agree. He deserved it. He earned it, but they never gave him the title because he was considered a junior heavyweight, and it's just this stigma of, well, a 200-pound guy isn't going to beat a 260-pound guy in a fight, and I don't think that should be the case.
I mean,
Yeah, if you have high flying moves, then you could take down a guy that's bigger and stronger.
Right. I mean, okay. So, like, I also said, like, during my rebookings of WCW 2000, like when I was doing Uncensored, I made Rey Mysterio. This was Unmasked Rey Mysterio, by the way. I made him the WCW Heavyweight Champion, and people, and if this happened for real, people would have loved that. I made Spike Dudley the ECW Champion because Mike Awesome had to leave,
Yeah.
and people
Well,
would.
you know, Rey Mysterio was champion in 2006 in WWE, but, you know, all this stuff had to come together. Eddie Guerrero's passing and everything for Vince McMahon to do it. And Vince McMahon did not want to do it because he had the same mentality that a lot of the Japanese promotions have, where it's just, you got to have a big guy as champion. You can't have a 5'4" guy as champion.
Exactly, but it's like, it's okay to have your world champion be a cruiserweight. It's not the end of the world. It makes business unique. It's fucking bullshit. Sorry for my language, but it is fucking bullshit because it's like, so what? It makes things different. Daniel Bryan's a cruiserweight. Granted, he's a middle cruiserweight, but you get what I mean. And and people didn't complain about that. It's just so fucking bullshit. But anyways, yeah. Also, what is your thoughts on the FMW women's division? Because I gotta say this. Of all the women's divisions I've seen in the 90s of Japan, this has got to be the greatest women's division ever in the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, FMW was the only promotion that also had a women's division on top of a men's division in Japan, because at the time it was just women's promotion, men's promotion. FMW had both, and they ended up bringing in some girls that had been that had originally wrestled in All Japan Women's AJW, and they were no longer working there. Megumi Kudo, Combat Toyota were two of them, and they came in to have great matches with these girls that weren't that great. And so, you had Shark Dashia, who was okay, but a lot of the other wrestlers were just kind of average wrestlers. So with Megumi Kudo and Combat Toyota, they became great wrestlers and had great matches in,
They had to learn the hard way.
Yeah, because they struggled at the beginning, Megumi Kudo and Combat Toyota. When they started in 1990, they weren't that good. But by 1992, 1993, they were great wrestlers. They had kind of worked, having all these hundreds of matches a year. They became great wrestlers, even though they were working with, average to bad wrestlers. They became great wrestlers themselves and had great matches with each other. And like I said, my favorite match in FMW is Megumi Kudo versus Combat Toyota.
Exactly. Do you know what I call that train? I call it the Nikita Koloff train, where you get someone that's so green, but then they get better and better over time.
Yeah, exactly.
What's your thought? Oh, by the way, do you think Nikita Koloff should be in the WWE Hall of Fame or any other Hall of Fame? Because, to be honest, he is an awesome wrestler. Great guy, by the way. Have you ever heard his real life voice? It's so calm and relaxing and very Mr. Rogers-like and very...
Yeah, I think he should be. I mean, a lot of wrestlers are in the WWE Hall of Fame that did not have Nikita Koloff's career, but at the end of the day, it just comes down to whatever Vince McMahon wants.
He and Rick Rude are the best one-time U.S. champions to hold those belts.
Probably. I like Raven, but yeah.
Raven only holds the belt for one day.
Yeah.
but anyways. By the way, I actually had to retool my Bob Sapp idea. Like I said, for the first 2 years, if you don't know, I'm rebooking New Japan's Inokiism era, and it's kind of hard. It's really hard to rebook 6 bad years of wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so Bob is a normal wrestler at first. He debuts in 2001 and 2. But guess what? When Bob wins the IWGP Shogun Champion, it's the IC belt for New Japan at the time. He holds it for nearly a year and loses the belt to a young Shinsuke Nakamura at the Tokyo Dome show. He lost it on the same day a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? During that time, Bob was undefeated. And when New Japan had their All Japan relationship, he kicked a lot of All Japan people's asses. So he was dominant. But he also won the G1 during that.
Gotcha.
But here's the thing. He lost to one person during his champion time.
Who was that?
Hiroshi Tenzan.
Gotcha.
And guess what? When he and Hiroshi had their match Bob is like, I want revenge on you. You beat me when I have my Shogun record holding belt. And you know what? And even though you didn't take my belt, I'm gonna take something from you. Your IWGP title. So how do you like that, bitch? Okay, but anyways, then when he loses his Shogun belt, he and Masahiro Chono have a tag team. I mean, if you're going to put someone that's green-yellowish in a tag team, you need to put them with someone that's extremely red. And Masahiro Chono's that guy. But anyways, yeah, so also Bob Sapp holds the belt until he loses it in a TNA New Japan show. To Ron Killings. A.K.A. R-Truth.
Yep.
I love R-Truth. Do you like R-Truth?
I like his recent character. I think he's a good comedy wrestler.
He's 50 years old, yet he can still kick anybody's ass. You gotta give him credit for that. But it's too bad WWE's not gonna give him the belt, even though he's worked so hard. No. I mean, if WWE... Here's the idea. Imagine if WWE did give him the World Heavyweight. Granted that he has to fight Roman Reigns, who's at his red hot period. You get what I mean? But if R-Truth beat Roman and won the WWE title and had like a 5 or 6 month run, I would have been I would not hate that. You know why? Because R-Truth would have made a lot of funny segments with that run. He would have had a fun matches. But no, WWE Vinnie Mac just doesn't give a shit anymore. Or he does, but he doesn't show, but he thinks he does, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
So anyways, do you like ECW?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a great promotion from 90, I really liked the 95 to 98 time period. And then Masato Tanaka and Mike Awesome in 99. Not too much of a fan at the end, but, I mean, the peak of it was great.
I mean, do you think Spike Dudley would be a good ECW champion? Like if I told you, like in the April 1st ECW show, 2000, do you think a lot of people would not mind him being a world champion, even though he's like the smallest cruiserweight ever?
I mean, he was pretty over in 2000. I think he would have been better than Just Incredible. Let's put it that way.
Just Incredible's not a bad champion, but it's like he was just he just wasn't ready yet. He was just pushed way. He was more like a good ECW wrestler, but I didn't see him as a champion. I saw him more as a mid-carder guy.
Yeah.
But anyways, by the way, Spike Dudley, dude, you're gonna love this idea. Have you ever, how some networks want to be in the wrestling thing, want to get into the wrestling business? Well, guess what? Like, I had this idea what if Nickelodeon had this 3-night show where, like, they had all 3 promotions, like, they're promoting their Kids' Choice Awards, and, like, wrestling is hot in 2000, right? And guess what? Like, so they do this, like, 3-night show, and each night is a different company, WWF, WCW, and ECW. And
I don't know if they could do that. At the time, 2000, WWF was with the company that Nickelodeon's under, I think, and
Viacom.
Viacom. And so WCW and ECW couldn't be a part of those channels at the time.
Right, but it's like it's just an idea. It's just a stupid.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, because they have to. It's a K to A show. If you get what a K to A means, kids and adults. Oh, by the way, Spike Dudley in my show in night 3, he has a great match with Ravens, a no DQ match.
Okay.
Meaning that there's a lot of nut shots in that match. Only I'm sure. Do you want to say to both people if I was backstage? Remember, wear a cup.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, I was thinking of having Tajiri and Super Crazy have a match for the TV title. But I want to add a third man. I want to add Masato Tanaka in that match.
That'd be a good match.
Well, I wanted to add Mikey Riprack, but I felt like it's just a triple threat cruiserweight match. I mean, I love those matches, but it's like you gotta add something different. You gotta add a different flavor. But anyways, so what is the worst FMW year ever? I should have asked you that last time, but we had time issues and the recording wasn't working. And yada.
Worst year, I'm not a big fan of 94, actually, just because that was kind of, I mean, it was one of their best years financially, but it was just, it was too hardcore. Like at the beginning, Onita had creative ideas. Let's do this. Let's have this, But by the end of his run, it was just it doesn't matter. Let's just have blood and guts. Let's just have Mr. Pogo cut me up, and that's all we need to do. And it's just me and Pogo, and the matches aren't that good. It's just a lot of blood. That's all that matters. And again, hey, it drew. Onita was retiring. He didn't put that much thought into his last year, and that's why the shows aren't that great. There's not as much creativity. It's not as fun. Like I said, it's just kind of like, death matches. That's all that matters. And so I'm not a big fan of that. But on the other end, 2001, a lot of people don't like that year. I personally, it's up and down, but that's the year kind of where FMW really started to fall because Hayabusa was hurt so much and was not there, and they ended up losing a lot of money as a result. So 2 years, two different things were, 1994 made a lot of money, but it's just kind of boring. 2001, kind of up and down, but the ups are really fun, but they lost a lot of money.
Oh, man. So you're saying 1994 is just hardcore match the show without a twist or turn. There's no creativity. It's just normal people just having hardcore matches. It kind of sounds like backyard wrestling.
I mean, better than backyard wrestling, but it's just more of too much, just like cutting Onita's back open and stuff like that.
Oh, so it's basically been there, done that.
Over and over.
It's basically been there, done that.
Yeah, just the same thing over and over, but they saw it as, hey, this makes money, and that's all that matters.
I mean, to be honestly fair, money's important, but if you're going to have a good promotion, you gotta you gotta push yourself. You gotta
Onita knew he was going to leave after May 5th, 1995. He was going to retire, so it didn't matter. It was just, let's make as much money. It doesn't matter if it's good or not. It's making money. That's all that matters.
Oh man,
I'm not going to be here after May 5th anyway.
Oh man, that's not the best attitude to have, to be honest.
Well, it's the money attitude.
I mean, money's important, but you gotta have a balance of both. You gotta have a balance of both. But yeah. Anyways. Also by the way, I gave Shane Douglas a nickname when I was doing WCW rebookings. Do you know what his nickname is?
What?
Mustard Stain.
Oh, okay.
That's what Mark Madden calls him. Mark Madden's character is like, he hates everything Russo does, and he calls the franchise the Mustard Stain.
Uh-huh.
So, by the way, he wins the World Heavyweight title, and Shane's like, I'm the only person to ever win the NWA title, the ECW title, and the WCW title, meaning that I am the WCW version of the Triple Crown champion of All Japan. And doing Mark Madden he says this, you're not holding all three belts, dumbass.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be honestly fair, I mean, Shane's character is super cocky, but he's like over cocky in this promo.
Yeah.
But anyways, dude, what matches do you recommend people to have other than the women's match that you talked about with Tank, with the best? Yeah.
I have a top 100 list if anyone wants to check it out, BahuFNW.com, and the top 100 FMW matches. Some matches off the top of my head: Hayabusa versus Onita, an exploding cage match. There's Cactus Jack versus Wing Kanemaru from Kawasaki Stadium, May 5th, 1996. A great match. Another great match that included, the deathmatch aspect as well. There's a lot of great matches. Hayabusa versus Masato Tanaka. They had a classic, just a wrestling match. Like I said, but I went through and counted the top 100 list, my personal favorite FMW matches that are on my website. If anyone wants to check that out.
Oh, cool. By the way, have you ever been to Japan?
Yep, been 8 times.
Oh, dude, you're lucky. No, when I mean lucky, I don't mean like in a negative way.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, did you play in the arcades? Did you have authentic ramen sushi, man? Dude, I want to go there 8 times, man.
Yeah, I've been to arcades. I've done pretty much everything there is to do there. About 8 different 1-week trips there, and met all the FMW wrestlers, gone to, all these different shows, gone to wrestler bars, everything.
Good. But anyways, dude, Oh, by the way, I want to ask you one more question. What do you think of Tomohiro Ishii, who I think is the greatest New Japan wrestler ever?
Oh, very good wrestler. He worked a lot with the FMW wrestlers there. 20 years ago, because he was with Michinoku Pro, and then he was with War. So he worked a lot with a lot of the FMW wrestlers in the 2005, 2006, 2007 or so. So I got to see a lot of him before he became like this big name New Japan wrestler. But he was having great matches then, and I don't watch too much New Japan these days, but I keep hearing how great of a wrestler he is, and I'm sure, based off what I saw, I'm sure, hey, he is an excellent wrestler.
Right. Oh, by the way, my favorite Japanese wrestler is Tajiri.
Okay. That's cool.
It's just that if I'm going to be the Booker of All Japan, I'm going to work. I have to work with him because I don't think he doesn't seem like a bad guy. He seems like a decent guy. It's just that I just don't want us to clash, if you get what I mean. Like. But anyways, it was nice talking to you, Brett. Brett, say goodbye to the people of Krueger would have thought, and this is my best way of apologizing.
Thank you guys for having me.
All right.